One morning, people woke up rich. By noon, they had nothing. No warning. No second chance. Just silence where the money used to be. This is not fiction. This happened. It happened to real people, real investors, real families who believed they had built something that could not fall. And then it did. Overnight. In ways nobody saw coming. These are 10 moments when the market collapsed in the dark. And the world changed before sunrise. The year is 1929. America is riding the longest wave of prosperity it has ever known. Factories are humming, cars are selling, stocks are climbing, everyone is buying. The barber, the taxi driver, the school teacher, they are all in the market. They are all winning. Then on October 24th, something shifts. Sell orders start flooding in. Prices drop. Brokers panic. Within days, the New York Stock Exchange loses billions. Not millions. Billions. In a single week. Men who were millionaires on Monday are standing in bread lines by Friday. One banker, dressed in a three-piece suit, is seen quietly selling apples on a street corner. He had been worth $500,000. He does not speak. He just sells apples. The great crash of 1929 wiped out fortunes that had taken decades to build. And it happened so fast that most people did not understand what was gone until it was already over. Move forward to 1987. October again. October seems to have a habit of breaking things. Wall Street is booming. A new generation of traders is making obscene amounts of money. Ferraris, penthouse apartments, champagne at lunch. The 1980s are loud, and everyone wants a piece. Then on October 19th, the Dow Jones drops 22.6% in a single day. One day. The largest single-day percentage crash in stock market history. Traders are standing on the floor of the exchange, watching numbers fall so fast, the computers cannot keep up. One portfolio manager later recalled staring at his screen and thinking it was broken. It was not broken. $1 billion in value had simply vanished before he finished his coffee. Now imagine being in Asia in 1997. You run a business. You have employees. You have loans in local currency, and the economy has been growing for years. Everyone calls it the Asian miracle. Then in July, the Thai baht collapses. Almost overnight. And like a line of dominoes, currencies across Southeast Asia begin to fall. Indonesia, South Korea, Malaysia, the Philippines. One after another. Companies that seemed untouchable go bankrupt in weeks. Unemployment explodes. Families who had finally climbed into the middle class are pulled back down. The International Monetary Fund steps in with emergency loans, but for millions of people, the damage is already done. The miracle had become a mirage. Russia, 1998. The government defaults on its own debt. Think about that for a moment. A country that simply says it cannot pay what it owes. The ruble crashes. Savings accounts, the ones ordinary Russian citizens had built over years of hard work, become almost worthless within days. A man who had saved enough to buy an apartment suddenly has just enough to buy groceries. If that, international hedge funds that had bet on Russian stability lose billions. One American fund loses so much money that the entire global financial system starts to tremble. The Federal Reserve has to step in to prevent a worldwide collapse. One bad bet. One collapsing country. Almost the entire world pulled to the edge. The year 2000. The dot-com bubble. You had to be there to understand the madness. Companies with no profits, no revenue, and sometimes no real product are valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. Why? Because they have a website. Because people believe the internet will change everything. And they are right about that part. They are just wrong about the timing and the money. When the bubble bursts, it bursts fast and it bursts hard. The NASDAQ loses nearly 80% of its value over the following 2 years. But for many investors, the worst is over before they even realize the fall has started. One entrepreneur who had become a paper millionaire in 1999 wakes up in early 2001 to find his stock is worth less than $1. His company folds. His investors are gone. He is 34 years old and starting over. Now we go somewhere most people do not think about when they talk about financial collapse. Argentina, 2001. The government freezes bank accounts. Overnight. Citizens wake up and literally cannot access their own money. People stand outside banks that will not open. Some of them are screaming. Some of them are crying. Some of them are completely silent, which is somehow worse. The peso collapses. Businesses close. The middle class, which had worked so hard to exist in one of South America's most sophisticated economies, is gutted. Argentina defaults on $100 billion in debt. At the time, the largest sovereign default in history. A business owner who had built a restaurant over 20 years loses everything in 72 hours. Not because he did anything wrong, because a government made a decision and ordinary people paid the price. Iceland, 2008. A small country of around 300,000 people had let its banks grow to 10 times the size of its entire economy. 10 times. The banks were borrowing, investing, expanding, and promising returns that seemed impossible. Because they were. When the global financial crisis hits in October 2008, all three of Iceland's major banks collapse within a week. The stock market falls more than 90%. The currency loses half its value. Overnight, Iceland becomes the first Western country since the Great Depression to experience a full national banking collapse. People who had invested their life savings in Icelandic bank accounts watch everything disappear. Not slowly, instantly, like a light being switched off. And then there is 2008 itself. The crisis that shook everything. Lehman Brothers, one of the most powerful investment banks in the world. Founded in 1850, survived the Civil War, the Great Depression, 2 world wars. On September 15, 2008, it files for bankruptcy. The largest bankruptcy in American history. The night before, executives are still sending emails about salvaging a deal. Some of them leave the office carrying boxes of personal belongings at 2 in the morning. By the time they wake up, it is over. The collapse triggers a wave of panic across global markets. Stock markets around the world lose trillions. Homeowners lose houses. Workers lose jobs. Retirement accounts are slashed in half. People in their 60s who had planned to retire in months suddenly cannot retire at all. Greece. 2010. A country that hid the true size of its debt for years. When the truth comes out, it comes out all at once. The bond market collapses. Greece can no longer borrow money. It needs a bailout. Then another. Then another. Austerity measures are imposed. Salaries are cut. Pensions are slashed. Unemployment reaches 27% at its peak. A retired school teacher who had worked for 35 years sees her pension cut by 40%. She is 68 years old. She had done everything right. Saved. Contributed. Trusted the system. The system did not hold up its end. And finally, March 2020. You remember this one. A virus is spreading. The news is getting worse by the hour, and then, within days, markets around the world begin to fall. Fast. The Dow Jones loses 26% in just 11 days, faster than the crash of 1929, faster than almost anything in recorded market history. Businesses that had been profitable for decades suddenly have 0 customers. Airlines, hotels, restaurants, theaters. Everything stops. Overnight, a restaurant owner who had spent 15 years building her business closes her doors on a Tuesday. She thinks it will be 2 weeks. It is 14 months. When she reopens, half her staff has moved on. Her savings are gone. She starts again at 52. 10 collapses. 10 moments when the floor gave way. Different countries, different centuries, different causes. But the same feeling every single time. The same quiet before the chaos. The same disbelief in people's eyes. The same question that everyone asks when it is already too late. How did we not see this coming? Maybe they should have. Maybe some did. But markets run on confidence, and confidence can vanish in a single night. The money can always disappear. History has proven that again and again. The only question is whether you will be ready when it does.